Welcome to our last lesson from our drawing course, lesson 11 of section 3, creating a finished drawing. Creating a finished drawing can involve several steps depending on the medium you are working with and your personal approach to the creative process. Here are some general steps you might follow to create a finished drawing. First, sketching. Start by creating a rough sketch of your subject matter. Use a thumbnail as discussed. This is a great way to work out the composition and overall layout of your drawing. Depending on the complexity of your subject, you might make several sketches until you have the final image and you are happy with the overall design. Outlining. Once you have a rough sketch, you can start outlining. Your drawing. This involves creating a more detailed and precise line drawing of your subject. Depending on the medium you are working with, you might use a variety of tools for outlining, such as pencils, markers, or charcoal, and so on. Shading. After outlining, you can start shading. This is where you add depth and dimension to your subject by creating variations in tone and value. Depending on the medium you are working with, you might use tools such as pencils, pens, markers, or paint to create shading. Detailing. Once you have added shading, you can start adding more detailed elements to your drawing, such as textures, patterns, or highlights. This is where you can add finer details that will make your drawing stand out and come to life. Finishing touches. Finally, you can add any finishing touches to your drawing, such as adding signature or framing your artwork and so on. This is a good time to step back and evaluate your work to make any final adjustments or corrections. Here you add the highlights and texture and of course contrast, and you add your personality to the drawing in order to express your feelings. Remember that the process of creating a finished drawing can be highly personal and subjective. Experiment with different techniques and approaches until you find a method that works better for you and your creative vision. Now I will show you some interesting examples of finished drawings. This is a portrait, and the main characteristic of this portrait is the dialogue between light and shadow. This is a finished drawing. It's a drawing after a famous painting, The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Piet Vermeer. You can see here the scale of values, which is very high, from very dark to very shiny, very light, and you can also see the representation of the texture, skin, cloth, and of course the main subject, the pearl earring, where you can see the masters, the painter, which is reflecting in it. Now I will show you some examples of very interesting technique, which is dry pastel, and it's very rewarding. If you start to work with dry pastels, you will be very happy and very satisfied. This is a drawing of firecrackers. You can see here the patterns all the patterns from the, and you can see here the explosion and the dynamic of the composition. Here is another dry pastel which depicts a forest in the beginning of the fall, and here you can also see the patterns of the leaves, the contrast in the composition, and you can also see how I tried to create the depth by putting accent to the front image, front tree. Yeah. So the focal point it's on this tree, and you achieve this by contrast and by these highlights, which creates the depth of the drawing. What we have here, it's a landscape in dry pastel, and this landscape, this composition, we can see here the symmetry between the trees here and their reflection in the water. We can see the perspective point with a focal point on the sun and the vanishing point also. We can also observe how the colors gradually they turn out into rainbow color elements, and also how the light is reflected on the water. This is a dry pastel still nature composition, triangular composition, which depicts sunflower, and we can see here the dialogue between light and dark. The highlights which reflects in the viewer's eye the light from the windows. We can observe that light can be shown, can be depicted with both warm or cold colors, but always with the bright tones. Here we have a dry pastel still life composition based on a square, and this is a two focal point composition. One focal point is here in the front plane, and this is the second focal point where the highlights is on the strawberry. What we tried to show here is the transparency of the cup, and you can see that the forms are diluted here because of the glass reflections. Yes, here is another composition with dry pastel, which it's a dynamic composition showing a love dance of swans, and the main elements are the reflections on the water and the focal points. The focal point it's on the male here. He's dancing to attract the female, and the focal point is created by the sharp close-up and the diffuse shapes and shadows in the background. And finally, this is a great drawing by my opinion. A portrait which has everything, equilibrium, great tones, shadowing, good proportions, expressivity, and the focal point which is in the area of the eyes. Also a very expressive smile and very nice and very warm overall shadowing and tones. Now that we came to the final lesson of my drawing course, I thank you very much for following me in this magical world of drawing. And if you want to continue and get better and better, try to draw something, anything, every day, and you will see it will be an enormous improvement in your skills and in the way you see life. Thank you.